I'm Mr. Giant and I'm going to be upgrading Nightwing Apocalypse event to other forms of media. Nightwing Apocalypse is a superpowered apocalypse that's in the DC universe with Nightwing as the main character. I'm going to be saying how you can do a DC animated movie or a whole series of DC animated movies is taking place in different points in time of the DC universe or alternate universe that take place in different point of time of the DC universe. Using alternate versions of the main DC characters and the DC characters that were there at the time, and the reason why it's still called Nightwing Apocalypse is because Nightwing being the main character and each time there being an apocalypse. You would start out with the Jurassic League, the Justice League made out of half men, half dinosaurs, but with them also being cavemen and women. And you doing a better job of splitting up the kinds of dinosaurs with the Justice League members and their villains. Like Wonder Woman should be a pterodactyl and Darkseid should be a Giganotosaurus, and you should keep fast as the fast dinosaur Eoraptors, and Batman and Superman as T-Rexes, but you keeping in and you just doing it better, the supervillains looking for Darkseid and the Justice coming together to stop him. And you would leave it open if these are alternate timeline versions of them, or if they're the main DC timelines and ancestors, and you're continuing on into the future with the descendants. Other people who took up their mantles like their kids, their partners, and the Legion of Superheroes. And me is just saying this now so it'll make one bit of sense later on in the video.
History said it disappeared, but history was wrong. Then Nightwing handed me the clock, and I entered the vortex.
And the other main characters throughout this movie or the whole series of movies would be Rip Hunter and Booster Gold because they're time travelers and the most iconic superhero time travelers in the DC universe. With them just going back in time to fix these points in time. With it mainly focusing on them and them working together with the superheroes of this time. And Nightwing would just be the main character with them. It would also go with the apocalypse theme because they go back in time to stop each apocalypse of each different time period. And it would be a good way to connect all the stories to the modern day because of there being a time traveler, it was just perfect for the storyline. And then needing to go back in time in order to stop up the immortal supervillain Vandal Savage because of him starting these apocalypses. It should be perfect Vandal Savage going up against the time-traveling superheroes because of him being immortal and him existing throughout every era of time. So just by him waiting throughout the times is how him being able to fight Booster Gold and Rip Hunter throughout those times and even into the future. And it would be good him starting out at the Jurassic League part of time because originally he was a caveman who got his powers from a radiated meteor. So really that would be calling back to his origin story and using it in a good way while also doing something original with it. Also being the perfect guy to be the main villain of the movie, not just because he's immortal, but because of him already being a big DC villain. He's actually fought a bunch of people in the DC universe, like the Justice Society, the Justice League, like the Super Family, and the Flash Family. And he's a good mixture of Lex Luthor and Ra's al Ghul, while also being DC's Dr. Doom. James Gunn is already going to be doing a movie with Booster Gold and an animated movie with the Jurassic League in the DCU, so this would be a good way to use that and to get the most out of it. Then you would go to Egyptian times with the superheroes from that part of time, like Black Adam, Hawkman, and Hawkgirl, and some Egyptian versions of our superheroes. The main timeline fight against Vandal Savage at that point in time. And you would also do Hawkman and Hawkgirl and Black Adam going against Vandal Savage's dictatorship, and after Hawkman and Hawkgirl all became rulers, Black Adam supported the rule until they died, then him becoming a supervillain afterwards, and then the rest of his story happens afterwards. Then you're going to Greece and ancient Rome's part in time with Wonder Woman and the Amazon's origin stories happening, but then you're also doing Roman versions of the DC superheroes. And this would be a good way to use more of Wonder Woman's Rosary and more mythical creatures from ancient Greek mythology, like the Minotaur and Medusa. And also, Wonder Woman does have an ally who is a Minotaur in her usual universe, so this would be a great way to introduce him and to use him more often in Wonder Woman's storylines. And Medusa is already in Wonder Woman's Rogues Gallery as one of her villains and one of the villains she usually fights against from Greek mythology. And then you're also using other superheroes from ancient Greece times like Shazam, who gets his powers from the ancient Greek gods. And with you also using other members of the Marvel family. And you also using to show them that them being more of a family while also being a superhero team, and that some of the best superhero teams are like a family to each other. With them not really being a superhero team, but them being a superhero family like the Bat family and the Super family. Then we go to Viking times with superheroes like Viking Prince and Viking versions of our superheroes. With Viking Prince being immortal and him falling in love with Odin's daughter and him only getting into Asgard if he dies a hero's death. So in the end he would sacrifice himself to defeat Vandal Savage, him getting a hero's death and him ending up in Valhalla with Odin's daughter. And you can also use this to show Scott Terras and also show, oh, that's when Scott Terras started happening because of it also being a similar Viking time. Scott Terras could even come back at the World War II part out of the storyline and the main timeline part of the storyline. I mean the main character of Scott Terras, Warlord, that comes in. His origin story and the rest of the part of the story. Then you would go to the Knights in Shining Armor part out of the timeline, and with them doing the storyline of League of Justice and Dark Knights of Steel all combined together. The versions of the superheroes and the kingdoms from both stories being combined together. And with the Knights in Shining Armor Superman being raised by Lex Luthor but turning against him. And with them going up against the same threat as in Dark Knights and Steel, and there also being some other Knights in Shining Armor superheroes from that time, like Etrigan the Demon. Who is Merlin's personal demon, and who is bound to a knight in Shining Armor, Jason Blood, for betraying King Arthur. And to save Jason Blood's life, so he can turn into Etrigan at will, and it also make him immortal, but him being stuck with Etrigan, but him eventually starting to care about Etrigan. So they would be good for the storyline, especially if you're using the villains like Morgan Le Fay or Clarion the Witch Boy. And they can even show up in the modern part of the DC timeline and future parts of the DC timeline with guys like Vigilante and Shining Knight. Then for the ancient Japan part of time, it would need to be in 3D anime animation, and because DC has been doing a good job of that lately. Not only did they do the Battle of the Super Sons in that form of animation, but they also did a Ruby crossover with the Justice League there, and they even did Batman Ninja there. I don't care what you say, Ruby EX Justice League Heroes and Huntsmen is a good movie, both parts. Because of it being a good crossover, it doing the job of a crossover good, and it being good for both sides of the crossovers, and it would make both fans of it happy. I don't care what you say, Batman Ninja is an awesome animated movie. Not only is it good for a time travel storyline, but also for Batman being an ancient part of Japan and in general. Not only does it do an awesome job with the anime effect, not just in animation, but also doing and honoring it. But using all parts of him being a ninja, and it also coming back to Batman being trained as a ninja. And they also did a good job putting Batman and his Rogues Gallery and Gorilla Grodd and Deathstroke in the ancient Japan part of time, with versions of them and then fitting to it accordingly. You would use ancient Japan versions of these superheroes and superheroes who are already from that part of time in the DC universe. And you would also use people from a similar part of the world as them, and who are already part of the main DC universe, like Cassandra Cain. And with her using futuristic Batman technology at the time. And Katana, who would want to pass down the mantle but then find out that she should keep the mantle, but her also keeping it along with her kids. Which would be good for this version of her because of her kids surviving in it. With you also using her to show the samurai part of the other DC superheroes, those who aren't samurais. And with you also doing her usual things there.
Stop! Release me!
That That was him. That was my father. He's free.
In ancient Chinese and Japanese samurai and ninja versions of the Justice League, and it being with the DC universe in general, with the other DC superheroes and the other main characters fighting bands or savage, it's during this, but then us seeing what the other guys were doing during this, and with them crossing over with each other at the end of it. It also being revealed that Vandal Savage being the main villain of the storyline, and at the end of this part of the storyline, which we would already know him being the villain of the storyline, but then it would be obvious him being the main villain and how big of a threat he is, and that it is a good reason him being the main villain of the storyline. And it would be good us seeing Vandal Savage fight them throughout the times and seeing the different versions of the superheroes and the different superheroes of those times. Because not only do we see alternate versions of the superheroes we already love, but this also shows people or to other superheroes of different parts of time of the DC universe. And I got the artwork for these guys from the first Snake's Race Potential series and the story idea from him, so he should get all the credit for this part of the video. They're coming up with this part of the storyline. I'm not stealing it, I just think it is a good idea and want it to be a part of this storyline and think that it should be a part of the movie or series of movies. I'm just agreeing with his ideas here. Batman from this part of time would be coming back from his soul with his family, but then they would be killed by ninja assassins. Then when he goes and takes care of bats, he gets a fear of bats. And the race of Guru of this time saves him and puts him back in the cave, so he faces his fear of bats and can kill all the assassins. And when he becomes Batman, and so him theming himself after the bats. And he also trains him as a ninja so he can rebuild his family's ninja clan. Then he also travels the world to find stuff out from them, and he also finds stuff out from Zatanna's Baba, who is a sorcerer at this time, and him also becoming friends with Zatanna at this time, who is also a sorcerer. Finding things out from her Baba and becoming allies with him as Batman later on in the future, and helping him and just find his parents' killer. Batman would become friends with Catwoman and he goes to her part of the world in order to find the connection between her Baba and the Red Hooded Assassin. Then not only would he kill her Baba because of him being a dictator, but it would also turn out that Catwoman is his daughter because of her being born out of wedlock. He would escape the gods after killing Catwoman's Baba, and she would also find out his secret identity in secret when he unmasked in a private house that he thinks is private. Because he didn't know she saw him unmasked there, because she thought he was abandoned. Then Catwoman's uncle became a better king out of fear that the peasants would kill him, so after Catwoman was inspired by Batman, she became Catwoman. Then as Batman's parents were married to bring their clans together, Batwoman and was supposed to marry her cousin Batman. But then it was called off after the assassination, which worked out for her because of her being a part of the LGBT community couples. Also in ancient Japan's time, and her just being glad also that she didn't need to marry her own cousin, and in general. And the clan was falling apart before she took it over. She also took over the clan by force with her maids, and also used the advanced spy network to keep an eye on the other lands and to find her cousin. And when she does find her cousin, her being inspired by him to become Batwoman, and her also using her spy network to help him find his parents' killer. And one of the main generals of the clan would be killed by an assassin of this time, and he was this version of the Green Lantern's Baba. So his son, the Hal Jordan of this time, would take his place during it, and he would be a sole survivor from the assassin's attack, but then you would do Green Lantern's origin story and him becoming a Green Lantern samurai and defeating the assassins, and him becoming the first Green Lantern of Earth. You'd also be calling back to the original Green Lantern. And if you do this, the Green Lantern where Alan Scott got his Green Lantern ring from. And Commissioner Gordon would be one of the main generals of the Ninja Clan after Batman takes it over again. With his cousin taking over it whenever he's gone, but him taking over it whenever him being a ninja. And Commissioner Gordon's family would be attacked because of him looking into the assassin case. And because of it, his daughter Barbara Gordon was blinded in it, but awakened his psychic powers, being able to see quick glimpses of it in the future, and also being able to see through the eyes of other people. Because of it, Batman would use him as his version of Oracle, and use him to find the Red Hooded Assassin. Then Batman would become a well-known superhero and people knowing about him now. And Green Arrow would be the son of a friend of Batman's ninja clan. He was sent to live somewhere else and his barber died. Then he got shipwrecked and got stuck on an island for years, but then he managed to survive by becoming a ninja with a bow and arrow. Then he would come across a poor city and protect it, but then he would join Batman's ninja clan on the condition that he would protect the poor city and use his money to make it prosper. And Green Arrow would be protecting his poor city from Deathstroke's ninja clan. Deathstroke would have left Ra's al Ghul's ninja clan to become the most feared mercenary in the world, and him losing his eye because of it. And because of it, he became a villain to Catwoman and Green Arrow too, so then Batman's ninja clan fight against him later on in the story. And Shazam would be a young peasant boy who would fight in the Rock of Ages, and through it he would meet the wizard Shazam. And then him saying Shazam, him turning into a grown man and samurai that embodies the samurai ideals, and him getting his powers from the Japanese gods. And Queen Hippolyta would get sick and tired of there being war at the other parts of the world, so she would hold a contest to who goes to man's world to save it, and Diana would win, and her mother would begrudgingly accept it, and she would become Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman's mommy Hippolyta would give her magical armors and weapons to keep her safe, and then Wonder Woman would help out Batman to avenge his parents by killing the assassin with Batman, because she thinks it would help her find the cause as of why there being so much war in the world. Then some slave traders would find out about Gorilla City and try to kidnap Grodd, keep him in drugs so they can give him to their leader, but then Grodd would shake off the effects of the drug and mind control everyone in the ship. Then he would try to take over Man's World as a haven for Gorilla City and his people, and him also killing the slave traders there. Then we had also see in the modern day a Chinese version of the Flash going back in time by accident because he was late for a college course and he didn't want to be late for it. Then he would be mind controlled by Gorilla Grodd into being his enforcers, but then he would be freed from the mind control by Wonder Woman. Then he would also join Batman and Woman's ninja clan. If Grodd wasn't stopped, he would be a threat to even Lex Luthor, who would be a shogun here. And because of him being surprisingly open to Western trade and him using futuristic technology out of his own mind, and he would have an armored technology suit that's more advanced than anything else at the time. And you would also find Superman back when he was a baby at this time too, and use him as a secret weapon later on in the storyline, but then Superman becoming a good guy and going against him in the end in the storyline. With that version of Semi-Superman in the storyline. Then a young fisherman would have found on the Blue Beetle Scarab, a meteor that crashed during a fishing trip he was on, and him joining Lex Luthor as a samurai Blue Beetle in order to find out how to use his powers, but him going against Lex Luthor in the end, because of him being a bad guy, and he would be more loyal to Lex Luthor than in the Semi-Superman, because of him showing him how to use his powers. And the only reason why he would go with the Shogun Lex Luthor is because since Lex Luthor's technology was more advanced than anything else at the time, and the Jaime Reyes Blue Beetle with its technology samurai suit was more advanced than anything else at the time, he thought it would be good him going with the Shogun and help him to find out how to use his powers, since the Shogun does have experience with technology, since he did do technology that was more advanced than anything else at the time. The person who killed Batman's parents would be the red-hooded ninja who would turn out to be the Joker, who did the Japanese clown show that Batman and his parents saw before they were killed. And he would have fell into a similar type of chemicals that they would have had at the time, why him looking like that under the red-hooded ninja look, but him revealing how he really looks underneath it later on in the movie when he fights against Batman there. And Joker Samurai would be Bat Ninja's arch nemesis because of this, and Batman Ninja's ninja clan would defeat the Joker Samurai clan, and Batman finding out about it. And Joker Samurai would be helped by his girlfriend, a Kabuki Harley Quinn. He would also be a geisha and would be his second in command and the other guy in charge of the clan than him. And yeah, originally being a geisha, but had also been inspired to also be a Kabuki because Joker, his samurai, was also inspired by Kabuki to be after him being disfigured to dress up like that. Like a samurai after the Red Hood Ninja, and also because of the makeup of a Kabuki. So that's why she would be both a geisha and a Kabuki, with you only doing a brief mention of it in the animated movie or series of animated movies. Here also doing most of the female roles in the samurai clans and Japanese clown performances. Then after they defeat the Joker Samurai clan and the Shogun Lex Luthor, they would help the Chinese Flash get back to his own part of time. Then he would find out his friends from that time became legends, and then you would also find the modern day Wonder Woman and helping him to find the descendants of those people to become superheroes in the modern day. You doing a modern day, a futuristic Japanese biker gang version of Nightwing, a time against Batman Beyond, or an anime soul girl Green Lantern. He was also a Lantern Girl Magical Girl teen. Then you go to the steampunk era of the DC universe, with you doing a brief mention of them going through the Batman Gotham by Gaslight storyline and Batman the Doom That Came to Gotham storyline. With you also using it to go through the Gaslight storyline and the Batman Holy Terror storyline. If you showing steampunk superheroes that are already there at the time and steampunk versions of the superheroes from the main timeline, with them going back to fighting against Vandal Savage and Gentleman Ghost at the time, and you also showing stuff from the Sandman and John Constantine's ancestors, because his ancestors are the Laughing Magicians and have something to do with Dream of the Endless. And then you would go to Cowboy times and the Wild West times with the Justice Riders storyline. And you also doing cowboy superheroes of the time like Jonah Hex, and the other cowboy characters from the Wild West part of DC. With you doing the Justice Riders storyline exactly true to the comic books, but with them working together with Jonah Hex more often and with him being one of the main characters of it. And with him also being a bounty hunter and going after some criminals, and with them fighting against Vandal Savage in it, and him also being the one who connects the Justice Riders to the other cowboy heroes of the Wild West at the time. Then you would do that John Hex got frozen during that time, and him ending up in the modern day with his great-granddaughter, and him protecting the modern day Texas. Because John Hex does end up in the main DC timeline a lot, and this is the usual for him. He even and goes in space a bunch of the time and with alien weapons. Not only is good with alien weapons, but is also really advanced with them. And his granddaughter is a part of the Young Justice team, and he did already get married and have kids in his part of the timeline. So it would be good you showing his legacy continuing on at that time. And this way you would get both parts of Jonah Hex's story right. And this way you would show how the animated movie or the series of animated movies are all connected to each other. Because it's showing these superheroes are timeless, and it also showing what kind of legacy they leave behind, and it also showing that no one is above justice. Because no matter what time period Vandal Savage is in, and the superheroes always stop him, either by going back in time with him or by the superheroes that are already there. And that it being good, they're just being good people who are willing to stop him. And to quote Spider-Man, Joe West, and Starfire, the Sunru, they're not doing it for the bad people of the world, they're doing it for the Aunt Mays and Uncle Bens of the world. And because of there being so many more good people like that, it's good you're just doing good. And you can't save everyone, but you can save someone. And it is good the people you can save. Because it being good, you're already saving those people. Which should be shown by these superheroes working together, and them getting help from the usual people, and there being so many more superheroes than the supervillains. Which should also show how big of a threat the supervillains are by going against these superheroes. And it being because of these different generations and superheroes coming together in the end. Then we go to the noir part of the timeline where we see Agent Faraday, a private eye who joined the military. And because of it, him being a government agent in the modern day, him being an old man but him still being active. Then we'd see DC's original most iconic superheroes starting their careers at this time. But with them being teenagers, which would make sense in the modern day for why them being old enough for their kids to be grown-ups at this time. With guys like Superman still starting out as Superboy here, but with guys like Batman starting out at 18 when he first became Batman. Then in the modern day, people like them would be in their late 40s, like 48 at least. Which would explain how they've been around for so long, but them still being young enough to do this job at that time. Then for the other Wonder Woman at the other time, it would be the other Amazons who did it at the time, like Wonder Woman's Aunt Antiope and Wonder Woman's mommy Hippolyta. Or are you doing Wonder Woman starting her journey into man during that time? how Wonder Woman was doing all those times in order for you to keep her original origin story. Then we'd also see some noir superhero stories of them doing the usual noir stuff in Gotham with gangsters and crime, with you also showing their early superhero days there. Then you would go to the war part of that time, which is when you would do Wonder Woman's origin story and the superheroes being involved with the war at the time, and with the Justice Society being their first superhero team and like mentors to them. And the only reason why Wonder Woman was the Justice Society's secretary in the original stories was just so she would be a main character in her own books by the guy who created her. And so you don't have the same problems as that story did, you just doing her being the inspiration for why the Justice Society kept fighting in this storyline. And after the Justice Society disbanded and them creating the Justice League years later, the Justice Society came out of retirement doing it. And thus seeing our world where two heroes like Sergeant Rock, the Freedom Fighters, is the Creature Commandos, and the Haunted Tank, with some of them surviving into the modern day because of the descendants and because of some of them being immortal, and with Sergeant Rock being an old man in the modern day and him being a part of the government now.
No. Please!
Then you would do the Tom King Batman and storyline of him going old, the Catwoman, and then them having a daughter together, but with them actually going old and having their daughter Helena Wayne, which would come after Batman's son and Damian Wayne, and then her taking up the mantle of the next Batwoman after Damian Wayne takes up the mantle of Batman. With the same stuff happening to Batman and Catwoman from Tom King's story, and this being a future part of the movie, because after you doing in the World War II part of the Justice Society, you would do the story of them in the modern day and how they got there to that possible future of Batman, with you showing that they continue on in the Legion of Superheroes future, and with you doing Jeff Johns' new Justice Society of America storyline with the Lost Kids storyline, with Helena Wayne becoming the Huntress because of her being inspired by the original Huntress and Batman and Catwoman, and her joining the Justice Society, and them not just fighting against Vandal Savage in the modern day, but also a time-traveling Nazi, Degaton, one of the most iconic villains, which would go along well with the storyline because it also tying back in with the time-traveling plot outlined with Rip Hunter and Booster Gold. So they already stopped at Vandal Savage in the original way it happened, but Degaton just time traveling and trying to ruin it, but then Rip Hunter and Booster Gold managed to stop Degaton from doing it, which stopped the timeline from being ruined, with them also stopping Degaton's other time traveling crimes helping Vandal Savage as a side effect, and them also stopping him in general because of it. Helena Wayne would have created a new Justice Society made out of their villains, because if Batman didn't give second chances, she wouldn't be there today. And them also being a future version of the Justice Society of America. Then it would turn out that Degaton made a deal with the last Lord of Chaos Mordru, a Legion of Superheroes villain, to kill the Justice Society and then replace them, and him starting from the future because he already tried to get rid of the Justice Society and he failed at it. So if he does it this way, he'll be able to replace the Justice Society this way. But because of Helena Wayne being a living paradox, she became a blind spot. Then they got the other Justice Societies of America from the other timelines to defeat the other versions of Degaton. And they managed to send him to the Flashpoint Batman universe where he wouldn't be able to use his powers, and him being stuck there, and him also being in a place worse than hell, the Flashpoint universe. Which is when the Lost Kids, the original Justice Society members' kids, and their original sidekicks would put themselves back into the timeline and them starting to remember them. And them also being a part of the future Justice Society. And them also going with the younger members of the Justice Society in the modern day. It would undo Helena Wayne's timeline because of Batman not dying in it because of it. But then Batman would use the same snow globe he got from Rip Hunter that he used to put Degaton in the Flashpoint timeline to send Helena Wayne into the same timeline, but it being changed, and so it being similar to the original timeline, but Batman not dying in it. And the Justice Society is a true symbol of the Golden Age and the world's first superhero team.
Bringing the fight for freedom to the front lines. They are the mystery men and women known as the Justice Society of America. That's freedom ringing in your ears per degaton. Compliments of Black Canary.
Then we go to the modern day of the DC Universe with Batman working together with the Outsiders whenever he's not working together with the Justice League. And you also showing and using the superhero teams of that at part of time, like the Outsiders and the Justice League. With Green Arrow occasionally being a part of the Outsiders and Batwoman occasionally leading the Outsiders, but usually it would be Batman in charge of it and him using it whenever him not being with the Justice League for a superhero team thing. Then we go to the Justice League. You can see the other DC superheroes of the modern day with the other parts of the multiverse and other superhero cities of the main DC universe. And you would also show the immortal superheroes in the modern day, with the Justice League stopping big threats like Darkseid and Brainiac, and them also stopping supervillains from other parts of the multiverse, and them also doing it from the Watchtower and the Hall of Justice. I was also seeing the Teen Titans doing it from Titan's Tower, and the other superheroes doing it from the individual headquarters like the Batcave, with Bruce and Rip Hunter being the usual superheroes there. And this is where you do John Hex showing up there again, and guys from World War II like the Justice Society being old men by now, to show that we're all connected in some way to each other, and that the only people you don't want connected to you are the people you choose not to be connected to you. And the superhero team that takes after the Justice League's legacy and will inherit it after the Justice League, the Teen Titans. Because it's similar to how the Justice League was inspired by the Justice Society to become the Justice League, but with the Teen Titans taking after the Justice League. And they are their partners. Then you find a fast storyline for Wally West, and you doing the fastest 800th issue storyline, but with the Teen Titans and saying how hard it is to do crimes in their city because of them being so good there. Which should show how good the Teen Titans is, and it would tie into more Troop from the Legion of Superheroes part in time. And it's showing the superheroes also in the modern day, and how good they are in the modern day, and it also getting you ready for the post-apocalyptic future of the Teen Titans. For the post-apocalyptic future and the Nightwing Apocalypse part of the storyline, of where you just find the storyline exactly, but with Nightwing and Starfire getting back together in the end because of their son, and them also having their daughter Nightstar in this universe. In this universe, Starfire would be a little worried about Nightstar being a superhero, but Nightstar would show it being good at being a superhero and her away being a superhero. Jake would take up the mantle of Batman after the other ones, but before Damian Wayne and before Superboy becomes Superman. And you'd also make it in this universe as Batman's Injustice daughter that he had with Talia al Ghul, who would look like the fan art here is the daughter he had with Catwoman after Helena Wayne. And with Damian Wayne being the older brother of Helena Wayne, because Batman would have had him with Talia al Ghul before he was with Catwoman, and then Helena Wayne would have to convince Damian Wayne it being a good thing him retiring from Batman so it not ruining his life. Which is how Helena Wayne would take over as Batwoman and become the Bat of Gotham City. And Superman would have 3 kids with Lois Lane, his Injustice daughter, Power Girl, and John Kent. And you find the convention storyline for his Injustice daughter. Power Girl would have the same things happen to her, and John Kent would eventually become the new Superman. In this world, Wonder Woman would have 3 daughters with Steve Trevor, Alita Trevor, and I would go with the Earth 2 version of how she looked. Because the Earth 2 version of how Alita Trevor looked, that was much better than the original version of her, and also, Alita Trevor is the original version of Wonder Woman's daughter. The Donna DC version of her daughter, and the daughter she had with Batman. And so you're getting something out of the Donna DC's version of Wonder Woman's daughter, so you're not being completely a total waste of it. And Batman and Wonder Woman is a good couple, and people have been wanting to see them together for quite some time now, so you should do an alternate universe where they do have a daughter together, and you can hint at it here with their daughter being her and Steve Trevor's daughter here. Then you go into a future mecha version of the Justice League fighting against Darkseid, and them using giant robots. Then you go to Terry McGinnis' Batman Beyond's timeline. Then you saw Booster Gold's origin story in the movie by doing his part in the timeline. Then you showing Rip Hunter's part of the timeline and revealing that Booster Gold is his Baba. And you need to do the Mecha Justice League like how Toyman did the Meg for the Justice League. And you make it different from the Chinese Flash from the modern day and the futuristic Batman Beyond from China because of them being the superheroes from China at the time. And Terry McGinnis is a good member of the Bat family and a good successor to Batman, so he should show up in more other forms of media. And he's starting to by showing up in the comic books and in the Crisis on Infinite Earths movie. So this could be just the sign that that Terry McGinnis needs is to start at showing up again in the DC comic books and to get his own live-action movie franchise and to get his animated movie uncancelled and to get his own video game series.
And the Watchtower?
It's gone. We lost a lot of good people that day.
You mean Superman? Jean? All the others?
Yeah. You too. And the Batcave? Surprised to see me? A little. I'm more surprised that I lived so long.
Batman, Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne, Batman. Or have you met?
Not now!
Great. What did they used to call it? Stereo?
Where's Kronos? My arm's getting tired. I can't believe I was ever that green. This is how you interrogate someone. Control my friend here much longer. You better give us something we can use.
His wife! I know where his wife is!
Wow. Batman playing good cop. Everything's relative.
Then you saw Reverse Flash as part of the timeline and how him becoming a supervillain. And them going forward in time to stop up Eobard Thawne and put him in prison back in their part of time. Because of him going back in time to fight against the Flash, and you're also exploring the fact that he doesn't come as far from the future as Abracadabra does. Then they would go to Abracadabra's part of the timeline, then they would help him set his timeline free from robot dictators. And they would also find out why he is a supervillain, and them also making it okay for him to stay in that timeline, and them also making it that he doesn't go back to their timeline anymore because of it being okay him being in his own timeline again. Then you would go to the Legion of Superheroes part in the timeline, and so them working together with the Justice League, then them sending the Justice League back in the point of time they got them from after them defeating Vandal Savage, who would survive into the Legion of Superheroes part in the timeline because of him being immortal, and them stopping his time travel plans there, and because of it they would stop him from time traveling. And it would go great for the storyline of the animated movie or the whole movie franchise, as if you go with the storyline of Justice League vs. the Legion of Superheroes for this part of the movie, for the Legion of Superheroes part of it. Then the movie ending with the Legion of Superheroes is going on to fight against Brainiac. This would be a perfect way to end the animated movie, which would be 4 hours, or the whole series of animated movies, or even you just doing it as an episode in Young Justice. Because since the Legion of Superheroes is a superhero team from the future and that being the whole thing, them being the perfect guys to end the story with because of them coming from the latest part of the future, and their timeline coming in the last in the timeline. And because of them being inspired by the original superheroes to become a superhero team, and them being similar to the Teen Titans with them being teenage superheroes, and them even protecting Earth in the future, and them also being inspired by Superboy, it being the perfect thing to go with the thing we're trying to say in the animated movie with you going with the Legion of Superheroes for this. And the Brainiac X storyline is in an eventually continues way. It shows in the end there are no ends, just new beginnings. And it would be perfect since Brainiac 5 is a member of the Legion of Superheroes and is a descendant of Brainiac. So it would make sense for Brainiac to still exist in the future and for them to go against Brainiac in the future. And the Legion of Superheroes would also go well with the time travel part of the storyline. And it's showing the future being a better place because of the superheroes, and that legends never die because of them always being remembered and them being honored by the future generations of superheroes.
knew what I was doing, but I couldn't stop.
Where are we? Last thing I remember was... Oh no.
You really gotta start acclimating to the now. Or not.
Brainy!
Hello, Legionnaires. I've come to fetch you home.
I thought we were too far out of our old timeline to ever be rescued.
Quite the contrary. I calculate a 99.84% likelihood that the timeline has been substantially restored.
What about the other 0.16%? Just don't go there.
Wait, you're leaving?
It is long past time. But give Miss Martian our best and have a wonderful wedding. A wonderful life.
But you never told me. Why was I so important?
You'll see.
Then it would end with a big wedding to Bouncing Boy and Triplicate Girl. And there would be some of the futuristic superheroes from the other parts of time. The Legion of Superheroes members, their friends and family. And some of the immortal superheroes. For the superheroes who are already immortal and live for thousands of years in the main part of the timeline, and they would just be old people by now. For the superheroes whose whole thing is immortal and can go toe-to-toe with Vandal Savage for them being immortal, or they would be at the wedding in general, with them looking the same way they always did. If they'd still be a long time in the future even for them. And for the superheroes who are immortal but aren't known for being immortal, like Wonder Woman and Superman, and they would have already have died of age years ago. But them still being active at Batman Beyond's point in time, them just being old people at that time. In this way, it would make it feel full circle and bring everything together from the other parts of the movie or the other movies in the franchise together. It would be good Booster Gold and Rip Hunter being there because Booster Gold did get his Legion of Superheroes flight ring from the Legion of Superheroes museum, and Rip Hunter is Booster Gold's son. And you doing this before the Brainiac part of the storyline, and it also being good for their romance. So you would get everything done before them going on an adventure to show that the best part of time is that it's never ending.